It started with small changes in her behavior. Longer hours on her phone, secretive smiles, and sudden excuses to stay late at work. I wanted to believe it was nothing, but my instincts told me otherwise. When I finally asked her, she laughed it off, brushed my concern aside, and said, "It's just a harmless crush, you're overreacting." The words hit me harder than I expected, not because of the so-called crush, but because of how casually she dismissed my feelings. For days, I tried to convince myself she was right. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was too insecure. But then I noticed the way she lit up when his name appeared on her phone. I saw how quickly she changed the screen when I walked into the room. I wasn't imagining it. She was emotionally drifting away, and I was left clinging to a marriage that suddenly felt one-sided. I confronted her again, this time calmly. "Do you realize what you're doing to us?" I asked. She sighed as if I was burdening her with nonsense. "You're making a big deal out of nothing," she said. But the truth was, it wasn't nothing. A crush might start as innocent, but when it grows into secret messages, hidden laughter, and constant daydreaming about someone else, it stops being harmless. That night, I sat alone in our bedroom, staring at the wedding photos on the wall. I remembered the vows we had exchanged, the promises we made to each other. And yet here we were, with her telling me I was overreacting while she gave pieces of herself to another man. I felt like a fool for fighting for someone who didn't see the damage she was causing. The next morning, I decided not to argue anymore. Instead, I quietly gathered proof of their conversations, the late-night chats, the photos she had tried to hide. I didn't do it out of spite. I did it because I needed clarity. I needed to know if I was truly losing my mind or if she was gaslighting me. The evidence told me everything. She wasn't just crushing on him. She was invested. When I showed her what I found, she turned pale. She tried to explain, to say it was still nothing serious. But the lies were too shallow, and my patience was gone. I told her, "You don't get to decide what's serious when it comes to my heart. You can't dismiss me and expect me to stay silent." She broke down crying, but by then, my love had already started to turn into something else, self-respect. Her family called, asking why she was suddenly at their house crying. I told them the truth, word for word. At first, they tried to defend her, but when I forwarded the screenshots, their voices changed. They admitted she was wrong, but they begged me to give her another chance. I listened quietly, but my decision was already forming in my heart. Days turned into weeks, and she kept sending me messages, apologies, promises to cut contact, desperate attempts to fix what was broken. But every time I looked at her words, I remembered how easily she had dismissed me before. "It's just a harmless crush," she had said, not realizing those words were the knife that cut the deepest. I began focusing on myself, my work, my peace. For the first time in years, I felt free. Friends invited me out, and I realized how much of myself I had lost while trying to protect a marriage that wasn't being protected by both of us. It was liberating and heartbreaking all at once. Finally, I sat across from her one last time. I told her, love isn't about dismissing each other's pain. It's about protecting each other from it. You chose him, even if you called it a crush. And by choosing him, you lost me. She begged me to reconsider, but my heart was firm. I filed for divorce soon after. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. She tried to fight it, then tried to delay it, but eventually she signed. Our marriage ended not with a loud explosion but with quiet papers that carried years of broken trust. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that the man she had called her harmless crush moved on from her quickly. She was left alone, realizing too late that she had traded a marriage for a fleeting infatuation. As for me, I had already closed that chapter. I walked away with my dignity intact. And whenever I remember her words, I don't feel anger anymore. I just remind myself, the moment she dismissed my heart, she freed me to protect it myself.